Thank you for joining us here tonight on Halton News. It's Wednesday, July 15th, and I'm Jessica Kading. 2 new cases of COVID-19 have been confirmed since yesterday, but with 2 more recoveries added as well, there are still 43 active COVID-19 cases in our region. 10 of those are in Burlington, 13 in Oakville, 18 in Milton, and there are only 2 active cases currently in Halton Hills. There's an ongoing investigation by Halton police after a female was found without vital signs in Burlington. She was in the area of Queensway Drive and Guelph Line. Officers arrived around 10:30 this morning, and paramedics were able to revive her using CPR. She has since been transported to hospital with unknown injuries, and police are still investigating the situation. They do ask that you avoid the area, but they say they do not believe there to be any risk to the public at this time. An empty barn in Oakville caught fire last night, and the flames could be seen as far as in Port Credit in Mississauga. Oakville firefighters were battling the blaze at 6th Line south of the 407, and this morning Deputy Fire Chief Andy Glynn was on scene with the details.
So roughly 10 o'clock last night, numerous 911 calls for this location for a fire, an active fire. On arrival, the fire crews came across this location which they had a fully involved barn fire. So immediately crews set up and began extinguishing the fire and trying to protect the exposures. We were assisted with by Milton Fire, who came down to assist us with the fire control. We kept the fire to the barn area, and it didn't extend to any of the other buildings on the property. So at this point in time, we're just continuing to overhaul the site and extinguishing any hotspots on location. We need the requirement of a heavy excavator to assist us with pulling apart the debris so we can ensure extinguishment. At this point in time, we do not know the cause, the origin, or the circumstances of the fire, but we continue to investigate what the situation was. This site is vacant. It is boarded up. So yeah, at this point in time, we don't have any occupants for any of the buildings here at the site, nor do we have any animals that we're aware of in the barn.
After a hit and run in Milton, police are appealing to the public for dash cam footage. It was an 18-year-old male cyclist who was hit by a vehicle around 1 o'clock this afternoon. He had been traveling through the crosswalk at the intersection of Drew Center and Thompson Road South in Milton, and the driver of the vehicle who hit him fled the scene. The cyclist was assessed at the scene by paramedics before being transported to hospital as a precaution. If you have dash cam footage of the area or you were a witness, please call police at 905-825-4747, extension 7114. Halton Regional Council was in session today, and they unanimously approved a temporary mandatory mask bylaw for the entire Halton region. We'll have more for you on that tomorrow, but in the meantime, the City of Burlington has already voted and passed a mandatory mask bylaw, which will be in effect starting Monday, July 20th. I spoke with Marianne Mead-Ward about that decision.
Absolutely. Masks are the topic of the day, have been for some weeks, and on Monday, City Council unanimously did pass a mandatory mask bylaw. It applies to indoor public spaces, and there are a number of exceptions. I've gotten a lot of questions already, so things like if you work in a restaurant and you're serving, that's a public facing, you need to wear a mask or a face shield. We did allow for that. If you're in the kitchen and you're not interacting with the public, or you're in a warehouse of a grocery store not interacting with the public, you don't need to wear one. So it really is intended for businesses that have a public-facing component. There are exceptions even for office buildings. If you make an appointment for a service with your lawyer or an accountant, you don't need a mask, depending on what policies they have. So it's really intended for public spaces where the public is coming and going a lot.
If someone does have those questions, where is the best place that they can get the proper answers for Burlington residents specifically?
So burlington.ca, it's right on our homepage. Click through to the FAQ around where it applies, who it applies to. I've gotten questions about, does it apply to apartments and condos, the common areas? No, we don't have the authority to regulate that. Those are actually considered private spaces. Our bylaw allowed us to regulate what we're doing through our business licensing, so that wouldn't be considered a business.
I also had a chance to speak with Oakville North Burlington MP Pam Damoff about the financial state of Canada and the level of debt that we've accumulated.
Last week, Minister Morneau highlighted a snapshot of where we are with the economy during the pandemic, and a number of programs were highlighted. The CERB has been taken up by 8.16 million Canadians. The wage subsidy, 3 million employees have been supported through that, and just yesterday the Prime Minister announced that that wage subsidy will be extended to December, which I know is good news for employers in our region. We're still waiting on further details because I've heard from a number of employers that as we start to reopen, the criteria may not fit them, but they still need support. So it has been extended, and we're waiting for further news on what the new criteria will be. 3.7 million families got the Canada Child Benefit top-up, and then 6.7 million seniors were able to receive a one-time payment. So really focusing on Canadians, because we know if we have a positive health outcome, that will produce a positive economic outcome.
And what about the debt?
So the currently it's at $343 million, and most of that is due to the spending that we've made through the pandemic. But I guess if there's any good news, it's that with interest rates so low, the debt service charges, the amount we're paying to service the debt, is actually $4 billion less than was anticipated in the last fiscal update. So, and I think what we need to look at is what would the cost have been of not doing anything. And if we look at the people that have been able to keep their jobs and still put food on the table, I think most Canadians would agree that it was money that the government needed to spend.
41 practical nursing students are welcome back on campus at Sheridan College to complete their 2-week lab session. This requirement was delayed back in April due to COVID-19, but now with proper safety protocols in place, students in practical nursing have the option to return now, or they can wait till September if they prefer. Halton Hills continues road work in Acton, and they're getting some financial help to do it. Melissa Candelaria has more.
Halton Hills has received funding from the province to continue their road work in Acton. Mayor Rick Bennett says this couldn't come at a better time.
Especially as you suggest in a time of a COVID-19, when we have deferred taxes, and we've deferred over $4 million worth of capital projects thus far this year, and one that wasn't deferred was the Yonge Street, Queen Street reconstruction. So we're very pleased. We applied for some provincial funding, and we got $1,485,000 from the provincial government.
This funding is coming from the province's Connecting Links program that provides municipalities with financial support for road projects. Bennett says there's a lot of work that needs to be done.
Right now, the Queen Street portion, the project is currently under design. So that part's under design and is slated for construction in 2021. The need for reconstruction was identified in 2018. The Yonge Street portion, as the road kind of turns in, you come into Queen Street, when you're coming back to Highway 7 Queen Street, then it turns up Yonge Street. That project is already started. The sewer pipes had to be replaced, sanitary sewers, they had to be replaced. Now, they were done a couple of years ago, and the road was left in not as good a condition as what we thought it would be. It wasn't done very well, so the town, we said that we're going to go ahead with it. And then, as it turned out, it was the pipes had to be, the sanitaries had to be replaced, and I believe that's already been done on one side of the street. The other side of the street was done 2 years ago. This side was done this time. But once it's completed, I'm sure everybody living along that small portion of road on Yonge Street will be very thrilled.
Yonge Street is expected to be completed by September. Reporting for Halton News, I'm Melissa Candelaria.
For almost 100 years, Oakville Rotarians have raised funds through special events to support local area charities and not-for-profits. They disperse financial aid to many deserving organizations and their worthy projects and initiatives within Oakville. And today we'd like to help them announce 4 new presidents that have been named to lead Oakville's Rotary Clubs for the upcoming 12 months. They are Michael Henry, Rotary Club of Oakville, Catherine Whitaker, Rotary Club of Oakville Trafalgar, Amr Dezat, Rotary Club of Oakville West, and Jenny Soundtharanathan, Rotary Passport Club South. Up next, Nikki Wesley will join me here in studio to tee up part 3 of her education series this week. Tonight's focus will be about online distance learning from a teacher's perspective. Stay with us. Welcome back to Halton News. I'm joined now in studio by a familiar face. Nikki Wesley is one of our daily reporters here on Halton News, and she joins me now in studio to talk about your education series. Now, you've already done parts 1 and 2. Why don't you make sure we're all up to speed on what you covered in those 2 topics?
Absolutely. So on Monday, I spoke with a student and her mother, and she was a high school student. And, we just wanted to find out what it had been like for her doing the distance education online for the first 3 months. And as we discovered, it was difficult. Her mom had anticipated being this great teacher mom, and then I think it was on day 4 that she thought, this is really hard.
Yes.
And so then on day 2, we spoke with the Halton Learning Foundation. And for those who missed it and don't know, the Halton Learning Foundation is a not-for-profit group through the Halton District School Board, and they help to eliminate some of the financial barriers for students.
And today should be really interesting because you spoke with another parent, but she's also a teacher.
Yes, so today I spoke with elementary school in Oakville teacher Julie Neal. And Julie had an extra sort of hitch thrown in there because she was teaching a grade 4-5 split. So when you're in class, you can sort of put both of those curriculums, not completely together, but some of the lessons can be the same. And, she discovered that once it went online, she was basically teaching 2 completely separate classes. And, like you said, she's a mom. So, while I was trying to balance gathering news and, teaching my children, Julie was trying to teach her children as well as teach all of our children. And, she takes ownership of our children. She calls them her kids, her class. So,
very dedicated teacher.
Very dedicated teacher. And, we'll see now as we let Julie tell her story.
As soon as COVID hit, I think everybody just basically were surviving. We went from March breaks extended for 2 weeks. We'll let you know what that looks like. And then literally on the Tuesday before we were supposed to go back on the Monday, we're doing online learning. And I think the big sentiment across all the teachers was, what? There was no training. There was just kind of like, we're doing something new. We're all worried about our children and how we're going to best educate them, and we don't want them to fall behind. And it became really stressful. My job happens to be a teacher, but I'm also a mother, and it was a lot of juggling, just like everybody else was. But you're still reading it in the media too about some teachers are doing more, some teachers are doing less, and again, it was we didn't get any training. It was kind of like do the best you can do, and I think professionally speaking for all of my colleagues I work with, I think we did an outstanding job with what we were given.
Neal admits before the pandemic she was not particularly technically savvy, but she certainly rose to the challenge.
And truthfully, when I was in it for the first 3 months, I did a lot of individual learning, and I taught myself a lot. And so I've continued to do that right now in some of my off time, just to make sure that I am up to date with some other interesting ways to stimulate students if I have to continue that online component, because it's difficult when you're not in a classroom where you can have those discussions and the hands-on activity, to make yourself animated and engage the children to do it online. Like, you really need to be creative.
Recognizing that all families were in different circumstances, Neal tried to connect with parents to support them as well.
Like, a lot of parents were saying to me, Ms. Neal, like, I'm not a teacher, that's not the profession I chose, and now I'm being thrown into this position. So I was very sensitive to that, and I really tried my best to comfort parents and let them know, like, that's still my job, so please reach out to me if you need help. I'm going to do everything in my power to help the students to succeed.
Being conscious of the importance of the social aspect of school students were missing, she held a community circle Google Meet once a week.
I had some students, they wouldn't miss it. They were the same kids every Thursday that connected in, and we just chatted for an hour. And that was my way of just saying, hey, how are you guys doing? And some of these students weren't as present in terms of the academic piece, but they didn't miss that community circle because they needed to see their peers.
In advance of September, Neil would like more training on delivering an online curriculum.
We're all coming in with different strengths, and so not everybody has the access to technology or the know-how. So it would be nice to see that we could get some additional training so that we're a little bit more on par with each other.
On Monday, the Halton District School Board sent a survey to families inquiring if they planned to send their children to school in the fall. They also notified parents they will be sharing the plan for reopening schools on August 10th.
Ideally, I'd love to be back in that classroom. That's why I chose to be a teacher. I wanted to interact with my students. We're not out of the woods, so to speak, quite yet. And again, we're still in uncharted territory, and we don't know how many students are going to come back. We don't know how many teachers are going to be able to come back. I think until we know those pieces of information, that's really critical to planning what a school year is going to look like.
Tomorrow, the series will continue with tips from a tutor and a homeschooler on how you can support your student in the fall if the model for September includes online learning. We have our local weather forecast up next, but first, for those of you enjoying this beautiful sunshine on Burlington Beach, you need to be aware that there's a hefty fine for parking when the lot is full.
Our beach is very popular. It's free, it's open, unlike a lot of other districts that have just completely shut down their beach, or they charge upwards of $50 a day or more to park there. So we've attracted visitors from across the Golden Horseshoe, really, and there's limited parking capacity. So we are really trying hard to put some park ambassadors down there to communicate to folks. Don't park illegally. There is parking in the area, so we're working on having a drop-off point so people can drop their gear, and then if they have to park a little further afield, they can do that rather than getting a ticket. It's a $250 ticket right now. We had people parking on a jet fuel line, not the best idea for heavy vehicles to be parking over top that. And on side streets, it was really becoming dangerous. The beach itself is quite a long, it's fairly narrow, but it's quite a long strip. So once people got there, I did observe that they were doing their best to remain distant from others, and physical distancing seemed to be working, but the parking is a bit of an issue. So we're still huddling internally at City Hall about how to resolve that. We really don't want to give out tickets. We don't want people to get a ticket, but we've got to do something to fix that issue that's happening down there. And it's just because we have an awesome beach right on the edge of our downtown. It's very unique. You won't find anything else like it.
An absolutely gorgeous summer day out there today. As you can see, some residents there cooling off in Bronte Creek. Taking a look at our forecast now, there's a slight chance of showers tomorrow morning, which will increase to a 70% chance of rain by tomorrow afternoon, and with that comes the risk of thunderstorms. Chance of showers continues into the evening tomorrow and overnight, when fog patches are expected to develop, as well as clouds that will clear and reveal sunny skies for Friday with a high reaching 31 degrees. Hopefully you're ready for those scorching hot temperatures to return, because they will certainly be back by the weekend. We're looking at a high of 33 degrees on Saturday without a cloud in the sky. Those clouds will roll back in Sunday, but still the humidex will be extremely high, as well as the UV index at 32 degrees. And then we are expecting rain showers by Monday. The Flamboro Chamber of Commerce is pleased to announce that the Flamboro Open Annual Golf Tournament is back on, and they invite you to join them on September 23rd. If you're a member of the Rotary or Chamber, you can vie for the Chamber or Rotary Cup. The tournament will take place at Copetown Woods Golf Club. To register or become a sponsor, visit flamborochamber.ca. And now a look at how some of Halton's top companies performed on the markets today. A local psychiatrist on the importance of communication when we return. Welcome back to Halton News. I'm Jessica Kading. Most of us have heard about the importance of communication, but every now and then we need a reminder that communication is more than verbal. Our body language communicates as well. Dr. Ashok Bhattacharya, a local psychiatrist, explains.
And a lot of us are just waiting to go back to normal life where possible. But a lot of us are experiencing burnout. Burnout is what it says. It's when things feel too stressed out and things are beginning to snap and burn. Who's sensitive to burnout and susceptible? It's usually productive, people-pleasing professionals. They're piling on too much. They push harder and harder until something breaks. Burnout starts with physical and emotional exhaustion. It can make the person feel numb and detached, as if they're not caring as much as they used to. Finally, they might start to make mistakes. This is a problem because they may not want to share that they've made a mistake with someone because they're feeling embarrassed, humiliated, and ashamed. And it's really important to try and take inventory. In fact, anticipate that you're going to get burnt out. Doesn't mean you're going to, but it means that if you plan for it and maybe even prevent it. Be realistic, try and balance your life. Talk to colleagues, they are going through exactly the same thing. They can share you their story, maybe some strategies that they've been using to help, and they can also get the support from you, which is also very gratifying. Find a support group, that can be invaluable. Don't forget your brain fitness, which means looking after your health, your nutrition, exercise, and general sense of well-being. So please stay safe, take care, and we'll talk to you next time.
Let there be rock. Let's take a look at a local event coming up where you can vote for your favorite legendary albums from the classic rock era and hear them played on Thursday night. This will take place on July 16th from 5 until 8 o'clock in the evening at the beautiful Rock Garden at the Royal Botanical Gardens. I'd like to thank you for tuning in to Halton News tonight. We'll be back with another live broadcast at 5:30 on Thursday night. Until then, you can find more content on yourtv.tv and follow us on social media at YourTV Halton. For Halton News, I'm Jessica Kading, and I thank you for watching.